2 weeks before my wedding, my maid of honor disappeared with $27,000. My entire wedding fund, every dollar I'd saved for 3 years, every overtime shift, every skipped vacation, every birthday where I asked for cash instead of gifts. Gone. And the woman who took it was the same woman who'd held my hair back at prom, talked me through my parents' divorce, and stood in my apartment 11 months earlier and cried when I asked her to be my maid of honor. Her name was Josephine. I'd known her for 20 years. I didn't know her at all. My name is Sutton, and I need to tell you this story in order because the details matter. Every single one of them matters. Because Josephine didn't just steal my money. She built a trap out of 20 years of trust, and I walked into it the same way you walk into your own living room, without looking, because you've been there 1,000 times, and you never thought the floor would give out. Josephine and I met at summer camp when we were 8. She was the girl who wasn't afraid of the lake. I was the girl who sat on the dock with her feet in the water, too scared to jump. Josephine swam over, grabbed my hand, and pulled me in. I came up sputtering and furious, and she was treading water next to me, laughing, and she said, "See? You didn't die." That was our friendship in one sentence. Josephine pulled me into things I was afraid of, and I survived them because she was next to me. Through high school, through college, through my 20s, she was the constant. Boyfriends came and went. Jobs changed, apartments rotated. Josephine stayed. She was the emergency contact on every form I filled out. She had a key to my apartment. She knew my passwords, my banking PIN, the name of my childhood dog, every security question answer I'd ever set. I gave her access to my entire life because that's what you do with someone you trust completely. You hand them the keys and you don't think twice because thinking twice would mean you don't trust them, and not trusting Josephine was something that had never crossed my mind. I met my fiancé, Derek, when I was 26. He was an electrician with a calm voice and steady hands and a habit of fixing things around my apartment that I hadn't asked him to fix. He just noticed. The leaky faucet, the crooked shelf, the window that stuck in the summer heat. He'd show up with tools and leave with everything working, and I fell in love with him somewhere between the faucet and the shelf. Josephine loved Derek, at least she said she did. "He's perfect for you, Sutton. Finally, a man who deserves you." She said it at every dinner, every gathering, every double date she reluctantly attended with whatever guy she was seeing that month. Josephine's love life was chaotic, in a way she wore like a badge. She called herself a free spirit. I called her adventurous. Looking back, I think the word might have been unstable, but love makes you generous with your vocabulary. Derek proposed after 2 years. Josephine screamed so loud on the phone that Derek heard her from across the room. "I'm planning everything," she announced. "Bachelorette party, bridal shower, all of it. You just show up and be beautiful." I asked her to be my maid of honor. She cried. Real tears, or what I believed were real tears. She hugged me and said, "I've been waiting my whole life for this." Now here's where the money comes in. Derek and I weren't rich. He was an electrician. I worked in accounts receivable at a medical supply company. We'd been saving for the wedding for 3 years, putting aside whatever we could, building a fund that eventually reached $27,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was ours. And it was enough for the wedding we wanted. Nothing extravagant, a nice venue, good food, flowers that didn't come from a gas station, and a DJ who'd play our first dance song without butchering the intro. The fund was in a joint savings account at our bank. Both Derek and I had access, and Josephine knew the login. She knew it because I'd given it to her 2 years earlier, when she was helping me track a fraudulent charge on my account while I was traveling for work. I'd read her the username and password over the phone, and she'd logged in and handled it. I never changed the credentials afterward. Why would I? She was Josephine. She was safe. 11 months before the wedding, Josephine offered to help manage the vendor payments. "You're terrible with deadlines, Sutton. Let me handle the deposits and invoices so you don't stress. I'll keep a spreadsheet." It made sense. Josephine was organized in a way I wasn't. She color-coded her closet. She kept a bullet journal. She was the kind of person who sent Christmas cards on December 1st while I was still finding last year's stamps. So I said yes. I gave her the responsibility of paying deposits and coordinating with vendors, and I checked in occasionally, but never closely because checking closely would have been insulting. Wouldn't it? The spreadsheet she showed me looked perfect. Venue deposit paid. Caterer first installment paid. Florist booked. DJ confirmed. Photographer secured. Every line item had a date, an amount, and a check mark. I'd glance at it during our weekly planning sessions and feel relieved that someone competent was handling the details while I handled the dress fittings and the guest list and the 17 arguments about the seating chart. Derek trusted her too. Josephine's got it under control, he'd say, when I'd wonder if we should double check the accounts. She's your best friend. She'd never mess this up. 2 weeks before the wedding, the venue called. Ms. Sutton, we're reaching out because we haven't received the final payment. The balance of $8,000 was due last Friday. That's been paid. My maid of honor handles the vendor payments. We have no record of any payment. We received the initial deposit of $2,009 months ago, but nothing since. That can't be right. Let me check and call you back. I called the caterer. Same story. The initial deposit had been received. Nothing after that. I called the florist. Same. The DJ. Same. The photographer. Same. Every vendor had received a small initial deposit, enough to book the date, and then nothing. The remaining payments, totaling over $20,000, had never been made. I logged into the savings account. My hands were shaking so badly I had to type the password 3 times. The balance loaded, and the number on the screen was $41.16. $27,000. Gone. I scrolled through the transaction history. Withdrawals. Dozens of them. ATM withdrawals of $500 here, $800 there. Electronic transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Cash advances, cashier's checks. The money had been pulled out in pieces over 11 months, starting the same week I'd given Josephine access to the vendor payments. The spreadsheet she'd shown me wasn't a planning document. It was a fiction, a bedtime story she read me every week to keep me sleeping while she emptied the account. I called Josephine, straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail? I texted. Nothing. I called from Derek's phone. Voicemail. I drove to her apartment. The door was unlocked. Not a good sign. Josephine was obsessive about locking doors. I walked in and the place was half empty. Furniture still there, but the personal things were gone. The closet was cleared out. The bathroom was stripped. Her laptop was gone. Her cat was gone. The only thing left was a single piece of paper on the kitchen counter. I'm sorry. I know this doesn't fix anything, but I had to go. Please don't look for me. J. 8 words of apology for $27,000 and 20 years of friendship. I stood in her empty apartment, and I read that note over and over, trying to find the hidden message, the explanation, the reason. There was none. Just 8 words and the lingering smell of the lavender candles she always burned. I drove home and I told Derek. I showed him the account. I showed him the transaction history. I showed him the note. He sat at the kitchen table and his face went through every stage of disbelief until it landed on the one that sticks. The quiet fury of a man who trusted someone with his future and had it stolen. We're calling the police, he said. She's my best friend. She was your best friend. Right now, she's a thief with a head start. We filed a police report that evening. Detective Ansari took our statement and pulled the financial records and said the words that made it real. This is felony embezzlement. The pattern of withdrawals over 11 months shows premeditation. This wasn't impulsive. Do you think you can find her? People who run usually don't run far enough. We'll start with her known associates, her family, credit card activity. Derek's parents lent us money for the wedding, enough to cover the venue and the caterer at reduced terms. My coworkers took up a collection that made me cry in the break room. Derek's buddy owned a sound system and offered to DJ for free. The florist, when she heard what happened, cut her price in half and said, "No bride should suffer for someone else's sin." We got married. 2 weeks late, half the original budget, twice the original heart. Derek's vows made me laugh and cry in the same sentence. The venue was smaller. The flowers were simpler. The food was still good. And Josephine's absence was a presence all its own. A chair-shaped hole at the head table that nobody mentioned, but everybody felt. My friend Pauline, who'd stepped in as emergency maid of honor with 12 days' notice, gave a toast that started with, "I've known Sutton for 6 years, which apparently makes me more reliable than 20. The room laughed, I laughed, and then I cried, because the joke was funny, and the truth underneath it was devastating. 3 months after the wedding, Detective Ansari called. "We found her. She's in Tucson." "Arizona?" "She's been living there under her middle name, working at a bar, renting a studio apartment. She didn't get far financially. Most of the money is gone. Gone where? We're still tracing it, but from what we can see, a significant portion went to online gambling. She'd been using several platforms for the past 2 years. The spending accelerated around the time she took over your wedding fund. Gambling. Josephine, the woman with the bullet journal and the color-coded closet and the spreadsheets, had a gambling addiction I'd never known about. The chaos I'd interpreted as an adventurous love life. The inconsistent jobs, the friends who came and went, the credit cards she said she'd paid off. All of it was the orbit of an addiction that had been operating beneath the surface of our friendship for years. Does she know I reported her? She does now. She was served this morning. Josephine was extradited back to Georgia. She was charged with felony theft by conversion, forgery, and unauthorized access to financial accounts. The preliminary hearing was in June. I didn't go. Pauline went. She sat in the gallery and texted me updates. She looks bad, thin, tired. She's got a public defender. Is she saying anything? Her lawyer is doing all the talking, but she keeps looking at the door like she's expecting someone. She's expecting me? Are you going to go? No. Good. Josephine took a plea deal. 3 years probation, mandatory gambling addiction treatment, community service, and full restitution. The restitution was the part that mattered, except there was almost nothing left to restitute. She'd gambled away over $20,000 of it. The remainder had gone to rent, her car, and the move to Tucson. The court ordered a payment plan that would take years. The first check arrived 2 months later, $87. I looked at that check for a long time. $87 from a $27,000 theft. At that rate, I'd be fully repaid sometime around my 73rd birthday. Derek said, frame it. Frame the first one so we never forget what trusting blindly costs. I didn't frame it. I cashed it because we needed groceries. 6 months after the sentencing, I got a letter, handwritten, on plain paper, postmarked from a treatment facility in Macon. Sutton, I'm in a 90-day program. Step 9 says I have to make amends with the people I've harmed. You're at the top of my list. You're the only name on some days. I stole your wedding fund. I stole your trust. I stole 20 years of friendship and turned them into a lie. The gambling started in college, and I've been hiding it ever since. I hid it from you the way I hid it from everyone, by being the most organized person in the room so nobody would look underneath. I chose you as the person to steal from because you were the person who trusted me the most, and I will carry the weight of that for the rest of my life. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that the friendship was real. The 20 years were real. The love was real. The disease is what wasn't. It was never about you. It was about me and a sickness I was too ashamed to name. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Josephine. I read that letter at my kitchen table, and Derek sat across from me and waited. What does it say? She says the friendship was real. Do you believe her? I believe she believes it. I don't know if that's the same thing. I didn't write back. Not because I'm cruel, because I didn't have words yet. The space between understanding someone's addiction and forgiving their choices is vast, and I was still standing at the edge of it, trying to figure out if there was a bridge or just a long way down. Pauline asked me last month if I'd ever talk to Josephine again. I don't know, but I changed all my passwords, every single one, every security question, every PIN, every login. I changed them all, and I wrote them down in a notebook that nobody will ever see. Not because I think she'll steal from me again, because I need to know that the doors to my life are closed to anyone I can't see clearly. And right now, the only person I see clearly is Derek, who married me with half a wedding and didn't blink. And Pauline, who wrote a maid of honor toast in 12 days, that was better than anything Josephine would have given in 12 months. Pauline laughed when I told her that. 12 days is plenty when you actually love the bride. The restitution checks keep coming. Small amounts, irregular. Each one a reminder that somewhere in Georgia, a woman I used to trust is making $87 payments on a debt she'll be carrying for decades. I don't think about the money anymore. The wedding was beautiful despite everything. Derek and I are building a life that's ours, not borrowed, not funded by overtime and stolen by algorithms on a gambling screen. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and Derek is asleep and the dog is snoring at the foot of the bed, I think about summer camp, about the dock and the lake and the girl who grabbed my hand and pulled me in. See, she said, you didn't die. She was right. I didn't die, but I stopped jumping in without looking. And I'll never let anyone hold my hand in the water again unless I can see the bottom. Have you ever trusted someone with everything and had them take it literally? Did they come back with an apology or did they just disappear? Tell me in the comments. If this one made you check your bank account, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll be back with another one soon. And to anyone who's ever been robbed by someone who loved them, the theft isn't the worst part. The worst part is recalculating every memory and wondering which ones were real. The answer is most of them, and that's what makes it hurt.